Yo, what's going on? Yo, we got Derek Jackson in the house. What's going on, Derek Jackson? How's life been, bro? You staying clean out there? Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. Do me a favor, as always. Press 5 for me to make sure y'all can see me, hear me before we get started with this. Um, I always have intentions on making these things short and straight to the point, but it never happens. It never happens, and I think that's just something I'm gonna have to just be okay with. Derek Jackson, you say you maintaining and staying healthy. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Yo, Willie, what's going on, Willie? Gay Nell, what's going on? Gail, peace. Louisiana, that's what's up. Let me go ahead and share this post out real quick, y'all. Give me a couple seconds. Let me just share this out real quick. All right, cool. Good. Karen, what's going on? And you're very welcome. You're very welcome. All right, cool. So hope everybody's having a good weekend, a good Saturday, a productive and healthy Saturday. Hope you all did multiple things today to add to the progression of your health, the improvement of your health. I hope you all, drank water, decrease the amount of processed foods and, did some exercise, those things. So listen, let me go ahead and get right to it, man. Because I never intended to come into the whole healthcare system thing going against the grain. It was never my intentions. My intentions was to try to figure out what the hell was going on as pertains to our health. I just got fed up with diabetes, all of my family, high blood pressure, medications. I just got fed up. I got tired of it. I want to do something about it. A family member tapped me on the shoulder. They asked me for help. There was something I could do to help them. And so, long story short, they sent me on a journey, went to school. I really wanted to figure out what was going on. Got to the point where I figured out what was going on. It was lifestyle. It was the things that we were eating and drinking and the lack of movement. Realized that it was not genetic. It was not something that was running in our family. And I was, of course, excited when I found that out. But that excitement was short-lived. And that excitement was followed by a mild level of psychosis, because I knew that I wasn't the only one that realized that, if we stop eating, the unhealthy foods, the McDonald's, the sugary foods, we wouldn't be diabetic, or the blood pressure and all these issues, right? And then also found out that the medications didn't do what we thought they did. So even if the manufacturers of the actual medications, they won't directly come out and say, take this blood pressure medication. It will prevent you from having a heart attack. It will prevent you from having a stroke. They won't say it. The people who will say that will be the healthcare practitioners, or the mainstream, like they will be the ones that actually push that false narrative. But the manufacturers themselves, they won't say it. Just like with the whole vaccine thing, like the vaccine companies, they'll be very strict on what they'll say, because they know that history will come back to them as far as them making claims that are false. And so it's going to be hard. I mean, I have found one or two, but it'll be hard to find where you found one of these vaccine manufacturers say that the vaccine will actually prevent transmission and infection. I found something, but for the most part, it's hard. They let the talking heads do that. They let the talking heads spread the misinformation and make the claims that way. When it all comes out like it is right now, and you see people who are on their freaking 20th vaccine still getting infected, they can always say, well, that was never the intention. The intention was to prevent severe disease and hospitalization. So anyways, I saw a lot of that going on. And then I got to the point where I was like, all right, this whole thing is really just the game. It's really just a hustle. It's really just money making. So how do we want to maneuver? And that's how I got to this point where it seems like I'm just on the opposite side of a lot of these things that are being pushed, especially with this whole, the situation we're in right now. But it's been like that before with type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, the preventable conditions, the conditions that are plaguing our communities, the conditions that are killing so many of our family members on a yearly basis. And so I started putting out straightforward information, or what I believe to be straightforward information, about how to prevent and reverse these things. And I got to the point where I realized that a lot of the improvement resides in mindset. Why? Because so many of us have been indoctrinated and convinced that they truly have your best intentions in mind. We have been convinced that the healthcare system is truly here to care for your health. We have been convinced that the experts want the best for us and that they actually know what's best for you. We've been convinced that. And I'm here to let you know that that is a flat out lie. They don't like you like that. They don't love you. They like what you can do for them. But at the end of the day, they want you sick. They want you weak. And they want your blind compliance. They don't want you dead. All right. Don't get that twisted. They don't want you dead, because if you're dead, they can't be a parasite. Parasite needs a host. Parasite needs somebody to suck on. And they can't do it on someone who is not alive. So, and I know, very grim, but we need to talk about something. Last year when back in 2020, when everything started, I jumped on it immediately because I understood that this was going to take us somewhere that we are not ready to go. Like, we are not prepared to go as far as protecting ourselves because of the state of our health, but also because of our mindset. We're too in love with the system that abuses you, and we really have no reason to hold on and love them so much and cherish them so much. But nonetheless, so I started putting out videos about coronavirus back in, my very first video was February 26, 2020. And I started putting out information just like that, back to back. And it's been extremely consistent as far as the stuff that I was putting out and the information that I was putting out. One of the common themes was that you have to do for yourself. You have to become the expert on your own health, your own body. You have to learn about these conditions, these quote unquote conditions that you are dealing with, and figure out how to improve that situation or get yourself completely out of that situation. Because those individuals were and still are the ones who are unfortunately the most vulnerable as pertains to the situation. And so I was repeatedly saying those things and also giving out steps, 10 steps. We're going to go over those 10 steps as well that we all should be taking, regardless if you're in that situation or not in that situation. One of the other things that I was saying is that they were going to make it seem like something such as, they were going to make it seem like natural things were fairy tales. They were going to make it seem like things that we've always known and talked about and just knew were not real. They were going to start bending and molding science and biology to their own objective. And that's exactly what they did. You saw these folks for the past 2 years completely ignore this idea of natural immunity. Like I had several posts taken down it was 2020 and then 2021, taken down for talking about natural immunity. I have a video up right now about natural immunity. I have 2 videos up right now about natural immunity. But at one point, you couldn't really talk about natural immunity. You have to ask yourself, why was the conversation about natural immunity so censored, but also why was it so mute as far as coming from your health leaders? I mean, you have the head Keebler elf in charge, also known as Fauci, getting on TV every single day, sitting in his high chair, swinging his legs, and babbling about multiple things. You got to, oh, well, it's plausible, it's all these things every single day, and he won't mention anything about natural immunity. And then at the moment when he does talk about natural immunity, he down talks it. So he will say, right, the paper might have said this and that, but we don't know the durability. It's like, wait a minute, this is the leader. The leader has no idea how we should look at natural immunity 2 years into this pandemic. 2 years into the pandemic, on a common sense level, you should know how to look at natural immunity, especially on the second year of the pandemic. Because why? Because in the first year, you had millions who were infected with the virus, and you had millions who got over the actual infection. And that percentage rate on the lower end, as far as survivability, was 98%. On the higher end, we're talking about 99%. So they survived somehow. For whatever reason, they don't want to acknowledge natural immunity as pertains to 2020. And then we continue. People were getting infected and getting over it. How? How are they doing this? Was it magic? And so they immediately pivoted to talking and pushing this vaccine. And then once again, I told you, they were going to make it seem like natural immunity was a fairy tale. But I also told you, because they weren't talking about it, they're going to make it seem like healthy lifestyle was a fairy tale. They're going to make it seem like eating healthy, drinking water, eating a salad, walking, exercise. They're going to down talk that. They're going to make it seem like, yeah, you can do it, but doesn't really help. I told you all that back in 2020. I was saying that because I understood that the whole medication game, the pill game, was getting old. It was time to transition over to the vaccine game. And that's a whole different conversation. And so here it is. What is today? This is January 28th, 29th. And somebody sent me a video of Jen Psaki. Jen Psaki is the press secretary. And I'm going to let you all see the video. I'm going to play this video. And I want you to hear how she talks about this idea, this thing about healthy lifestyle. And we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to get to the solutions, of course. But we're going to talk about what this face has to say. All right. So hold on real quick. Let me pull the video up. Look. Hey, she looked ready, bro. She looked ready. Look, she is with it. She looked ready. Oh man. All right, let's hear what she has to say.
His past comments that vice presidents can't break a tie to confirm a SCOTUS nominee. I know you said you were going to check on the specifics yesterday, so just wondering.
So not this question. It's a couple seconds.
Update on where the administration stands on this.
Oh, Mary just asked that question. It's okay. I'm happy to get back to you if we have a legal analysis from here.
All right, next one.
And then on COVID, we've seen an effort from a few other countries to include a push for living a healthier lifestyle as part of its pandemic response. There's been studies indicating efforts like weight loss to help prevent some of the more serious effects of COVID-19. Why hasn't the president included a push for healthier lifestyles in his COVID messaging?
All right, so it's a pretty good question. This reporter, journalist, she's asking a pretty valid question. 2 years into the pandemic, the president, this administration, all of them haven't said anything about healthy lifestyle. They haven't said anything about, losing weight. However, other countries have started implementing that into their policies or into their conversations. Why haven't we? And then here's a response.
In addition to pushing Americans to get vaccinated.
First, we rely on the advice and guidance of our public health officials on how to best protect yourself from hospitalization and death from COVID. And we know that the most effective steps anyone can take are to get vaccinated, get boosted, wear a mask. And those are the steps that we're certainly focusing on. If they decide those are steps that are warranted and have a huge impact on outcomes, and they want to share those, we'd certainly echo those. But we really refer to our public health officials and experts.
There hasn't been a advice from the public health officials that the president's been speaking to.
Again, we do briefings with our public health officials every week, multiple times a week, and I think what's most important to note is what we know is most effective, which is getting vaccinated, getting boosted, wearing a mask, and those are the components and the steps that we're really focusing our attention on encouraging. Okay, I'm happy to get.
They hate you. They absolutely hate you. They want you sick, they want you weak, and they want your blind compliance. I hope you understand that. For some of you, this may be a hard pill to swallow. I get it. Nobody wants to hear that the very system that's supposed to be caring for their health actually wants them weak and sick. However, if you don't grasp that truth, you're going to continue to blindly follow them and blindly listen to any and everything they're saying, all by thinking that it's all right and wise and exact. But the whole time, they are misleading you for their benefit. 2 years into this pandemic, 2 years into this pandemic, and these folks haven't talked about healthy lifestyle. Now, I get it. I had somebody say that that's common sense. No, it ain't. Not today. I mean, today it is not common sense. Today, common sense, I'm not even sure what common sense even means, because you can literally have a heated argument. I've seen it multiple times before with people who are hysterical about other people getting the jab and saying that you're putting people at risk, all while they are triply jabbed, boosted up, reinfected, and gave it to their spouse, and telling you that you need to get it because you're putting everybody at risk. And then when you tell them the obvious, ma'am, you've been triply jabbed and you got sick again and you passed it on to your household, why do you think that why do you think I'm putting people at risk? Like, you're putting people at risk and you're jabbed. And then they go into this circular argument about, well, because X, Y, Z. And so common sense is no longer really a strong thing, because common sense should tell you that, all right, I should stop being so aggressive about this whole jab thing because it doesn't stop the spread or transmission. If I believe that it decreases my chance of hospitalization, cool, then that's just me. But as far as me thinking that everyone needs to do it so that they can not cause harm to me or cause harm to anybody else, that's a fallacy. It's literally not true. It's literally not true. I get it. But when you listen to talking heads like this face right here, when you listen to people like this, and then the old guy, they keep rolling out on stage, when you listen to these people and the people on news and on a daily basis, and they're lying to you over and over and over and over and over, and you have no one else interjecting or challenging these perspectives, it's easy to go along with this narrative. And that's what a lot of people have been going through. And then you have a large section of people who were just coerced. Like, you were just threatened, you were bullied, and you had to just go ahead and do what you had to do because of your livelihood. You know, they were threatening your job, and I completely understand those things. But I say all that to say this: the whole idea about common sense, I don't really think that's relevant right now. So here it is, your health leaders. They asked her about, let's listen to this one more time, because this reporter asked a really, really good question. And this lady is talking about how they speak with them often, and that at no point, no one is saying, hey, you know, maybe we should start talking about, I don't know, vitamin D, since we know that a lot of these patients who are doing the worst as pertains to this virus are deficient in vitamin D. Maybe we should start talking about, you know, weight loss, since we know that a large majority of the people who are doing the worst with this pandemic and this virus are obese. Maybe we should talking about, you know, diabetes management, even though I don't do the whole management thing. I do reversal. You know, since a large population of people who are doing the worst with this are type 2 diabetic, maybe we should talk about relevant things that will help pull people out of these categories that puts them at the highest risk versus shooting this vaccine widely across all populations from 5 all the way to the 18-year-old. You got athletes who are getting this jab and having issues when they are not even anywhere in the category or close to being at risk. You got people aggressively pushing. This jab on people who are not even closely, remotely at risk, but they're doing it all based on, I just pulled $10 out of your ear. Like they're playing you. They're playing you. They're playing you because they hate you. They want you sick. They want you weak, and they want you blind compliance. And for the most part, it's working. That's one thing I'll give them. For the most part, it's working. I don't know how many of you have actually looked at the stats as pertains to who's truly at risk of, unfortunately, doing the worst when it comes to this virus. I've done multiple videos going through the stats. I've done multiple videos, and I can tell you that 5-year-olds are not, 10-year-olds are not. I know people don't like talking about this. 16-year-olds are not, 18-year-olds, 20. Like there's so many people who fall in certain demographics that are virtually not at risk of being hospitalized based on stats from this virus. It's not me saying it. It's what the stats are saying. These people keep on saying, follow the science, follow the science. But once again, they will bend and mold the truth to meet their objective. So at some point, you have to unplug from this whole, if we got to use the Matrix analogy, you got to unplug from this Matrix, because they want you to stay plugged into this Matrix and constantly drinking and eating everything they have. Just look at the advice that they have given you. Like, how can you be so aggressive? Like in the beginning of this thing, they were extremely aggressive about washing your hands, right? Extremely aggressive about washing your hands, but not about, drinking water. Like, y'all should drink water. A lot of y'all are dehydrated. 60% of the population dehydrated, mildly dehydrated. Aggressive about the mask wearing, only to come back and say, hey, masks, they don't really work the way we were saying they worked, and we kind of knew that already, but we were trying to save face. So now they're face decorations unless you're wearing the N95s. And what we're going to do, don't worry about it. What we're going to do is we're going to send 2 to each American in this country. We're going to send you 2 N95 masks right to your house. You got a question? Go ahead. What's that? Who's going to pay for it? Oh, y'all gonna pay for it. Y'all gonna pay for it. Yeah, we're gonna round up another bill. We're gonna get a couple more trillions, and y'all gonna pay for it. Who gonna pay for it? I'm not paying for it. Who gonna pay for it? The same people who pay for the vaccine. The same vaccine we're gonna make y'all take and tell you that it's free, but it's not free. You paid for it. The taxpayers are paying for this. Anyways, I'm trying not to go on a tangent, but the finesse, and so many people are going along with it. Let me play what this face said again. Let's pull it back up. Once again, this is just like 2 days ago or 1 day ago. Press Secretary Jen Psaki, she's asked about healthy lifestyle, and she says this.
Back to you if we have a legal analysis from here.
And then on COVID, we've seen an effort from a few other countries to include a push for living a healthier lifestyle as part of its pandemic response. There's been studies indicating efforts like weight loss to help prevent some of the more serious effects of COVID-19. Why hasn't the president included a push for healthier lifestyles in his COVID messaging, in addition to pushing Americans to get vaccinated?
Well, first, we rely on the advice and guidance of our public health officials on.
So we should try to find out who these health officials are, right? Like, we should try to figure out the reason why we want to know who these health officials are is so we can track their track record, right? We want to make sure that the people we are relying on have a pretty strong track record. Like, if I'm your coach and I'm charging you trillions of dollars to lead you to weight loss for that price, I better have an A+ track record, right? Right? So where we're going to get to eventually in this talk, shortly actually, we're going to see what kind of grade this healthcare system has. We're going to see what kind of grade the richest country in the world has as pertains to healthcare. But my bad, Jen. Go ahead, finish up.
On how to best protect yourself from hospitalization and death from COVID. And we know that the most effective steps anyone can take are to get vaccinated, get boosted, wear a mask, and those are the steps.
She said the best way. What did his face say?
Pushing Americans.
Yeah, look at her.
First, we rely on the advice and guidance of our public health officials on how to best protect yourself from hospitalization and death from COVID. And we know that the most effective steps anyone can take are to get vaccinated, get boosted, wear a mask, and those are the steps that we're certainly focusing on.
Get vaccinated, get boosted, wear a mask. Get vaccinated, get boosted, wear a mask. Get vaccinated, boosted, wear a mask. Over and over and over and over and over. She's saying that that's the best way to keep you out of the hospitals. Get vaccinated, get boosted, wear a mask. What do you all think are the common denominators for people who unfortunately have to go over? I'm not talking about, I'm talking about the majority. Like the majority of people who unfortunately do the worst with this infection and have to be hospitalized. And unfortunately, those who also die. There are common denominators that we cannot ignore. We can't ignore them because, once again, you're talking about locking down the whole entire world. You're talking about actually robbing the childhood of a whole entire generation. Like we're talking about taking away people's rights to determine whether or not they want something jabbed in their body. We're talking about stripping away the way someone makes money. We're talking about stripping away the school that someone is going to. We're talking about stripping away basic civil liberties. So if we're talking about that, you would think that a couple of things would have been addressed before making these harsh decisions. And I mean, that's leaving the whole economy out of it. Like we're just talking about civil liberties. You would think that with the way they are presenting this whole entire pandemic, this whole entire 2 years, you would think that this thing is just hitting everybody indiscriminately. But that's not the truth. This virus absolutely discriminates. First, it discriminates, well, it has a large discrimination on age. We know that, unfortunately, those who have done the worst with this infection have been over the age of 65. Now, that does not mean that over 65, your life doesn't matter. Absolutely does not mean that. But when we're talking about having a response that's going to literally affect everyone, we have to go through this in a methodical and logical way. Because once again, we're talking about infringing on people's civil liberties. We're talking about forcing people out of their workplace. We're talking about forcing vaccinations on 5-year-olds, 18-year-olds, everyone. So methodical, logical. Keep the emotions to the side for a little bit. So we know it discriminates based on age. We also know it discriminates based on comorbidities. Those comorbidities, diabetes, high blood pressure. Also, we see obesity as a major factor as far as those who are doing the worst with it. That is regardless if you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. Regardless. And then, once again, the question that I don't hear enough, or the stat that I don't hear enough, is what are the chances of surviving from this infection? Because you would think that the way these folks are responding and have been responding, you would think that it's like a 50-50 chance. But it's not. It's not. Does anyone know, in the chat, please, what is the survivability rate from being infected? If you were infected, what are the chances that you're going to survive? Like, is it 50%, 75%? Yeah, I can't see my face. 80%, 90%, 99%. No, it can't be 99%. That's crazy. What do you think the percentage is? Let me know in the chat. Oh, yeah, see, I got a lot of comments. So it's very important. All right, so we got some guesses coming in. So Latanya, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, she says 80. All right, she says 80%. We got Karen. Karen says 99%. Okay, Karen. Jordan says 99%. Amy Fletcher. The name sounds familiar. She says 99.7%. Carol says COVID came, the flu all of a sudden mysteriously went away. Common denominator, prior health problems, 90% survival rate. Karen says 99%. Rita says 100%. All right, Rita. Gail says 75%. Gaynell says 80%. Natasha, what's going on, Natasha? 98%. Hope Lynette says 90%. All right, so based on everything that I've been checking, and I've been checking this multiple times in a week, on the low end, 98%. On the high end, 99%. Let me make sure y'all hear me. On the low end, it's actually 98.4%. Like on the low end, it's what I'm finding. 98.4% on the low end, and then just flat out 99% on the high end. That's what. Once again, this is not to take away from those who have lost their lives during this pandemic. However, at the same time, once again, if we're talking about infringing and stripping away people's rights and their civil liberties and telling them that they don't own their body and that they have to take this vaccine regardless of how you feel, and we're going to strip away your job and your livelihood. If we're talking about that, then we do have to look at it from a logical standpoint. All right, we have to. And so with inside of that 98 to 99%, once again, we know that this virus discriminates. It discriminates. Age is a discrimination factor, and also comorbidities is a strong discrimination factor. So there's absolutely nothing you can do about your age, and I don't suggest trying to, take some kind of like miracle serum to reverse your age. Don't do that. But there's always something you can do about your health. There's always something you can do about your health. We understood that the majority of people who were being hospitalized with COVID back in the beginning of 2020 had a high, had comorbidities, had multiple comorbidities. I'm going to show you that in a little bit. We knew that in the very beginning. And so for these folks not to come out of their face and start talking about practical things that we all could do to improve our health is just straight up evil. I mean, I don't know what else really to call it. It's straight up evil. And so 2 years into it, and then you have this face right here, still.
They decide those are steps that are warranted and have a huge impact on outcomes, and they want to share those. We'd certainly echo those, but we really refer to our public health officials and experts.
There hasn't been a advice from the public health officials that the president's been speaking.
Look, even she's lost. She don't even know. She doesn't even know where to go with this. Look at her, like she's struggling. She's struggling. She's like, wait a minute. So you
refer to our public health officials.
Look at her. Watch it.
There hasn't been a advice.
Wait, does she have hoops in her ears? Hoop earrings? Are those hoop earrings? Or is that the mask? All right, I think that's the mask. But go ahead. What you say?
From the public health officials that the president's been speaking to.
Again, we do briefings with our public health officials every week, multiple times a week, and I think what's most important to note is what we know is most effective, which is getting vaccinated, getting boosted, wearing a mask, and those are the components and the steps that we're really focusing our attention on encouraging.
Most effective. Hey, what kind of harm would she cause, or would they cause, if they were to promote healthy lifestyle? If they were to say, hey, everybody, we need to be getting up and running every day. Hey, everybody, we need to be drinking water. Hey, everybody, y'all need to decrease the soda and the juice and the Krispy Kreme donuts. I know we gave you free donuts if you got vaccinated because it made sense. But because that's how they responded. They responded as if everybody has to do their part, right? Including dropping your civil liberties and just getting the vaccine, even if you feel like it didn't make sense, even if the data didn't line up to you, even if you didn't feel like you were in that category. They were like, forget all that. All hands on deck. We have to do any and everything. That's what they were saying. The sleepy dude was up there talking about we got to do any and everything, right? When I hear any and everything, I'm thinking that water is on deck. I'm thinking that exercise will be a talking point. I'm thinking that vitamin D, if we're talking about any and everything, we're putting that on the table. Like, it's not going to hurt, right? It's certainly not going to hurt. It's not going to make things worse. I mean, unless you're working with the FDA and you actually approve these foods and you actually benefit from people actually getting sicker. That's the only way it would hurt. But I know these are good people, so it wouldn't hurt them, right? So it wouldn't hurt for you to tell your fellow Americans to get healthy by exercising 30 minutes a day, 45 minutes a day, drinking water, making sure your vitamin D levels are sufficient, quote unquote, managing your diabetes correctly. It wouldn't hurt, right? Like, all hands on deck. Y'all going to infringe on people's right and mandate that they jab up or lose their job, then that definitely means all hands on deck, right? We're going to do everything except the health officials didn't say anything about healthy lifestyle. So since they didn't say anything about it, we're not going to really talk about it. If you don't see the hustle, if you don't know that these people hate you and they want you weak and sick, there's absolutely nothing anyone can do for you. There's nothing. If you believe that they truly have your best interest in hand, then you continue to follow them. Go ahead, continue to follow them. However, if you can see the BS, if you are at this point, you realize what is going on. Because I know a lot of people are waking up late. A lot of people are waking up late. A lot of people are waking up late. And it's cool. We just want you to wake up. You have to understand that you have to take care of yourself. These folks don't love you. They're not going to give you information that's going to help you out. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to play a clip, a video I made in the very beginning of this whole pandemic. And once again, you can go back and check my track record as far as the things that I've been saying about this whole pandemic and what they were going to do. I literally said these folks are going to pretend that natural immunity is not a thing. And I literally said that these folks are going to pretend that healthy eating is a myth. Like, it's going to be some kind of like woo-woo fake talk. And that's exactly what we have right here. Why? Because it only makes sense. Because it makes sense to me because I know they don't have our best interests in mind. I know they don't. I know they don't. So that's the next play. Like, it has to be the next play. But I want to play this video for you all. All right, because there's a couple of things we need to ask is, what is their grade? So if she's talking about what the health officials have been saying, let's see how the health officials have been doing for their fellow Americans, their citizens, for the past several years. Let's see what kind of grade they have. Our environment. Our bodies are going to adapt to whatever environment we are living in. And so this country is and has been extremely vulnerable as it pertains to health. Why? Because the system has failed you. The system has failed us. It's failed us all. And while failing us, it's also profiting from our pain, our misery, and our suffering. And when I say system, to keep it real with you, I'm really talking about all of them. I'm not making a real distinguishment between any of them. I'm talking political system, health system, pharmaceutical, government. They're all the same. They're all the same. They just put on a real good show. They act like they hate each other, but they're all the same. They're all homeboys. They all go to the same club. They all party. They all go to the same yacht. They're all the same. Now, you may be asking yourself, how can I say that the U.S. system has failed us? The U.S. healthcare system. How can I say that has failed us? Some people may feel like that's a little extreme. That's a little extreme. Well, what I need you to know is that the U.S. healthcare system spends $3.5 trillion per year. Let me say that again for you. The United States healthcare system spends $3.5 trillion, with a T, dollars per year. Family, do y'all know how many hundreds of thousands it takes to make a million? Do y'all know how many million it takes to make a billion and how many billions it takes to make a trillion, that is a lot of money. Not only that, that $3.5 trillion is 40% of the entire world's healthcare spending. Not only that, the United States only represents 4% of the global population. Come on now. Come on. Y'all got to do the math. In other words, the entire world spends roughly $8.6 trillion on health. The entire world. America alone spends $3.5 trillion. That is a lot of money. Not to mention, we only have 4% of the global population. Something's not adding up here. You see, I wouldn't be here even having this conversation if what we were paying for, we were actually getting great value from it. I wouldn't be here. If we were getting value from it, I would not be here. But if we as American actually had, the longest quality of adjusted life expectancy, not just life expectancy, longest adjusted quality of life expectancy. If we had lower rates of obesity, if we had lower rates of diabetes, if we had lower rates of chronic diseases, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. If we had lower use of pharmaceutical drugs compared to other countries, I would not be here. If we could actually turn around and attribute those feats to that $3.5 trillion, then this would be the best money spent. That $3.5 trillion, if it actually got us lower rates of obesity, diabetes, chronic diseases, if it actually got the majority of the population off medications or decreased in medications, if it improved our life expectancy, our quality of life expectancy, then I would not be here. But guess what? We're not even close. We're not even close to that. Americans are sicker and use more drugs than any developed nation. Let me say that again. Americans are sicker and use more drugs than any people in any developed nation. And on top of that, we have a lower life expectancy than any other developed country. And it's going down. Once again, $3.5 trillion. Something else you should know about it is that the U.S. adult population, the obesity rate, is 42%. 42.4% of the U.S. adult population is obese. And this is the first time that this national rate has passed 40%. 42.4%. More than 100 million adults are now living with diabetes or prediabetes. And this number was pulled from 2015. More than 100 million U.S. adults are now living with diabetes or prediabetes as of 2015. That was 5 years ago, going on 6 years ago. Not only that, heart disease is the leading cause of death. We all know that. Unfortunately, one person dies every 36 seconds in the United States from cardiovascular disease. And that's about 655,000 Americans each year to die from heart disease. Once again, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be having this conversation if that $3.5 trillion that America spends, which is 40% of what the entire world spends on health, I wouldn't be here having this conversation if that money was actually reversing these things that we're seeing. We have to ask the question of why. Why do we see these rates? Why is America so sick? How is it that the majority of the country has some type of comorbidity? Why? That's the question. I'll tell you why. It's because your leadership has been compromised. Your leadership has betrayed you, and they've done it in a systematic way. We don't even know who our friends are when it comes to these systems and these people who are the talking heads for these systems. I'm going to tell you who your friends are. In the words of the great master teacher John Henry Clark, you have no friends. And when I say you have no friends, I mean that as far as these systems, the people who get on TV and talk about, you see what they're talking about. It's you and your people. It's you and your community. That's what you're going to have to rely on. Doing for self. Understanding what health is. Understanding practical and straightforward strategies to improve your health. Understanding what the health condition is that you're dealing with. Really understanding what it is. Don't worry, we'll get to it. You got to understand, when I say that your leadership has been compromised and they've betrayed you, what I mean by that is that treating and managing chronic diseases has become the new business model. Look, this thing we used to call healthcare is gone. I'm sorry. I know it hurts some of y'all. I know some of y'all in here may work in the healthcare system. I do myself. But I'm telling you straight up, this whole idea outside of emergency care and urgent care and acute issues, when it comes to these chronic diseases, the idea of actually providing health is gone. Treating and managing chronic diseases has become the new business model. This system that we call the healthcare system, I call disease management, I call metrics obsession, focuses on managing metrics, delivering sick care. They have absolutely no interest whatsoever in reversing diseases. The money's just too good. Blood money, street money, Wall Street money. It's just too good. And when I say they, I don't mean the people that's working in the system. I don't mean your practitioner. I don't mean your nurse, your doctor, your PA, your nurse practitioner. They may very well have your best interest in mind. They may be very well trying their best to help you out. I'm talking about the actual system, because at the end of the day, that doctor, that PA, that nurse, whoever, has to pull from a protocol. They have to work with inside of that protocol. Yeah, they got a little wiggle room, but guess what? If something goes wrong while practicing outside of that protocol, malpractice. Okay, malpractice. And so with inside of that protocol, with inside of the guidelines, with inside of the recommendations that are handed down to your practitioners, the hustle is already baked in. The medications are already baked in. The procedures are already baked in. The devices are already baked in. It's already tainted. And by the time your practitioner get it, yeah, they can try. But good luck trying to spend that within that 15 minutes of sitting down and talking to you when that office manager is looking down the hallway, tapping his or her watch, saying, hurry up, we got more patients to go see. Come on. Y'all know how it is. At least some of y'all do. So when we talk about that $3.5 trillion that I just spoke about, unsurprisingly, the majority of that money is spent on chronic diseases. What am I talking about when I say chronic diseases? I'm talking about type 2 diabetes. I'm talking about cardiovascular disease such as hypertension, hypercholesterolemia. I'm talking about obesity. And what you also should know is that it did not used to be like this. Right now, like I said, that the majority of that $3.5 trillion is going to chronic care, chronic conditions. Why chronic conditions? Once again, it's because that is the big money maker right now. Chronic conditions, treating chronic conditions is the money maker right now. For right now, it's going to change. You're going to start to see infectious disease become the money maker, along with the treatment of it, which is going to be vaccines. You'll see that shit happen if we allow it to happen. And it's only going to get worse. Why am I saying it's going to get worse? Because they are treating these chronic conditions as if they are irreversible and chronic. They are treating these things as if they cannot be prevented. And if you get it, they are treating it like you have to have it for the rest of your life. And they are treating it like you cannot reverse it. That's why it's only going to get worse. And some people call it a cash cow. I'm telling you, it's a facade. It's a lie. It's a hustle. It's abuse. It's a flat out crime. Real quick, in the chat, y'all do me a favor. Answer this question. Yes or no? Is type 2 diabetes reversible? Yes or no? Help me out in the chat. All right, Yvonne says yes.
All right. So I pasted the link
I posted the link in the description and the video for the remainder of that video on YouTube. I highly recommend you all go and watch that video. It's on YouTube. It's also on my Facebook page. I mean, you can try to search on my Facebook page. I'll tell you what, I see a lot of people saying yes, and that warms my heart, not to be all woo with you all. But in 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, the answers were no. It was so difficult to get across to people that type 2 diabetes was reversible. I mean, so many people, I mean, I keep all this stuff to myself, but you just don't know the type of pushback that I received specifically from the other healthcare practitioners and how I was up, all those things, but also from patients as well. But to now see that all that, you know, I didn't do the work for myself, but I definitely was aggressive on my end as far as pushing the truth as far as type 2 diabetes being reversible and also being preventable. And so to see that so many people are now saying yes is a very, very good thing. You know, once again, when I tell you that health is your birthright, health is my birthright, I mean that. And by saying that this is something that just runs in your veins, whether it be type 2 diabetes or high blood pressure, you have to understand what you're saying to yourself. You're saying that sickness is your birthright and that the diabetes and the high blood pressures that come along later on in life is something that was destined to come to you. So you're saying that you're destined to be sick. And it also takes the control out of your hand. So I posted the link if you want to go see that full video, which I recommend, because in that video, you'll see that, let me just pull it up real quick again. In that video, you see that I get to,
we'll get into the conversation with my issues.
So once again, this was from 2020. And so this is a real article that I pulled up back in 2020. Talking about, this is from the CDC, 94% of COVID-19 deaths are underlying medical conditions. In Reuters, nearly 40% of those who have died with COVID-19 had diabetes, notable comorbidities, high blood pressure, heart disease, obesity, kidney disease. That's not my typing. That's from articles from the CDC and also from Reuters. That was back in 2020. And so this is me going down the list back then, talking about the obvious things that we need to be doing versus just waiting and praying on a vaccine. And I saw a comment I'm going to get to in a little bit. But I'm just saying that, you know, you all should watch this video if you want to know my overall recommendations. You know, I go through and I talk about why, you know, this is only going to amp up. It's not going to stop. This is why I recommend somebody my solution. People want to know my solution. I have a solution.
Provider is supposed
don't act like I'm just
to
out
be
here
your partner
talking
and helping you advance along your journey. You want to put your body in that tall coronavirus, you would give them an F.
All right, so I gave the healthcare system an F. I gave them an F. You heard about how much money they spend. You heard about how advanced we are. You heard about how much money we spend on healthcare. We spend more than most of the country. And you see the issues that we're dealing with. With all of that money being spent, it's clear that health is not a priority for our country. It's clear. And so when Jen Psaki gets up on there and moves her mouth around and says that the experts haven't told her that, you know, healthy lifestyle is something that's important, of course they did. Why would they? They haven't said it for diabetes. They failed every other place. Like, these folks have
maybe we're expecting something different.
These folks have failed in type 2 diabetes, which is reversible. A list of you all just said it's reversible, right? Why are they not reversing it? Like, how are they not reversing it in 2022? High blood pressure, obesity, PCOS, all of these things that are caused by lifestyle and insulin resistance. And so if you failed on that, and now you're now saying, yo, trust us, we got this whole pandemic thing. We got y'all, you know. For me, it's a no, dog. Like the guy from American Idol say, it's a no, dog. I'm good. But yeah, so if you go and watch this video on YouTube, like I said, it's also my Facebook.
Money,
I'll give you my solution. Walk away. That's a big part of my solution. That's like one of the foundational parts of the solution is walking away. Of course, in order to walk away, you need to make sure you're healthy. You have to improve your health. They want you sick. Why? Because if you're sick, you're dependent on them. And they also want you ignorant to what it means to be healthy. Because if you're ignorant to what it means to be healthy, they can convince you to take chemicals that will chemically alter your physiology. What do I mean by that? Taking high blood pressure medications does not prevent stroke and heart attacks. It'll lower your blood pressure because to block an enzyme or to inhibit a receptor, chemicals can do that all day long. Chemicals can also inhibit enzymes to decrease your cholesterol. Chemicals can also increase insulin secretion from your pancreas, sulfonylureas. Chemicals can do a lot of things, and they can alter a lot of metrics. But altering metrics and getting them in this tight little perfect range that they have set aside for you or set for you does not mean you're going to be healthy. It does not have a high correlation with health. Why? Because the reason your blood pressure is elevated, the reason your blood sugar is elevated, the reason your weight is elevated, the reason your cholesterol is elevated, the reason your insulin is elevated isn't because you are lacking medications. It's because of the foods and the constant infusion of juice and soda along with the processed foods multiple times a day in and day out, week after week, yearly after year, have caused your arteries to be stiffened, has caused your pancreas to secrete high amounts of insulin to the point where your cells have to now resist the insulin, has caused your fat infiltration into your organs. It has caused all these things to happen. And so that was done by the lifestyle. The medications don't stop the lifestyle. What the medications will do is they will go in and pretty much pull a magic trick. It'll block a receptor. It'll block a beta receptor, and the beta receptor will go to the heart and say, slow down the contractility, which is the force of contraction, and it'll say, slow down the heart rate. And those two things together will make your blood pressure go down. Now, as far as the health of your arteries, still corroded, still stiff, still restricted, still blocked, plaque, still there. It's just that your heart is now under the influence of a beta blocker. That's it. Nothing was done for health. The arteries are still corroded. The arteries are still stiff. The arteries still have plaque buildup. The medications don't address that at all. The medications go in and they do tricks. And so if you don't address the very thing that caused that environment, you're not going to get the decrease in mortality and morbidity the way that you're thinking. However, it's a sleight of hand. They tell you about the benefits of the medication that's going to decrease your blood sugar or decrease your blood pressure. And they know that you're going to think, oh, well, if my blood pressure is better, then that I should be able to prevent stroke and heart attack, kidney disease, kidney failure, amputations, gangrene. I should be able to prevent those things if I just take my medications and I have my metrics right where they need it to be. But it doesn't work like that because once again, while you are taking medications that will keep your numbers in a tight little range, the actual disease is truly progressing. Why? Because you're still eating the same foods, you're still drinking the same drinks, you're not walking, you're smoking, you're not doing any of the things that actually matter. See, what really matters is the actual lifestyle. The things that you're eating, the things that you're drinking, that is truly what matters. That is the foundation of how you're going to get healthy. You're not sick, or no, you're not sick, but you're not diabetic because you're not taking metformin. You're diabetic because you've eaten foods constantly that have increased your blood sugar, which has in turn increased your insulin multiple times a day to the point where your cells have become resistant. That's why. It has nothing to do with the sulfonylureas, the glimepiride, the glipizide, the glypiride, the metformin. It has nothing to do with those medications, the insulin. It has nothing to do with any of those things. It has to do with the lifestyle. And so they get you hook, line, and sinker on looking at the metrics and thinking that my numbers are good, then my health is good, right? They get you on that side. I told you all back in 2016, 2017 that pills were getting old and that vaccines were going to now be the new thing, because I was telling you all about the blood pressure vaccine, and that sounded crazy back then, but it makes perfect sense now. You just go look to see what kind of vaccines they're working on as pertains to blood pressure, cholesterol, Alzheimer's, and ask yourself why does there seem to be such a push for vaccines? But anyways, different conversation. And so I was telling you all about that. We are already conditioned to look at metrics and see metrics as a way of thinking that that's healthy. That's what good numbers equal health. That's not true. Medications work the same way mandates work. These folks keep repeating over and over and over. Well, we know that mandates work. We know that, we have to do mandates because mandates have been shown to work. Like, what do you mean mandates work? Like, what do you mean by that? And so once again, it's a sleight of hand. It's me pulling $100 bill out of your ear. It's me moving the cars around. It's the 3-car Mount Monty, because you don't know what the hell just happened. Mandates work. What does that mean? Mandates work the same way these medications work. Metrics. So you're thinking that high blood pressures work. When you say it and when you think it, you're thinking that, oh, it works because it'll stop you from having a stroke and a heart attack. But they mean, nah, the number. Your arteries will be compliant to what the medication is saying. We want your arteries to vasodilate. That's what they're going to do. We want your this medication to inhibit the ACE receptor, ACE enzyme. That's what these medications are going to do. Your body will now be compliant to what the medication is going to do. And so that's what medications work mean on that side. What do mandates work mean? You're thinking that mandates work means that we're going to be out of this whole pandemic soon. We're going to decrease the rates of infection. We're going to decrease the cases. We're going to decrease transmission, and we're going to do better overall. That's what you're thinking. When you hear mandates work, you're thinking like, all right, then we got to do what we got to do. What they mean is that mandates work as far as they're going to be compliant. If you got 50 people in your job or at your business, and half of them, 25, don't want to get it and 25 want to get it, mandate works to them mean that if we threaten them, if we threaten to take away their livelihood, we threaten to take away something they went to school for, we threaten to take away the way they make money and feed their family, that we're going to take that 50% all the way up to 95%, if not 100%. That's what mandates work mean. Mandate works has nothing to do with we're going to decrease the amount of cases that we have in this business, or we're going to decrease the transmission. It has nothing to do with that at all. Mandate works means that you're going to be compliant. Medications works means that your body's going to be compliant momentarily, but it's not real. And so now that we have you obsessed the same way we're obsessed with metrics, because we understand that we have chemicals that can alter the body and make the body become compliant based on ingesting a chemical, we can now swap over and do it this way on the pandemic side. Tell me, as it pertains to what do you all know that we now look at or that we now talk about as pertains to the vaccines being effective? Like, what are we looking at as far as what are we using to see just how effective the vaccine is being in us currently? Like, what are we tracking? Like, what are we looking at? I don't know if I laid out that question the correct way. Let me try it again. There are things that we are looking at as pertains to trying to see how much protection is provided by these vaccines. And then we also started seeing that being used with natural immunity. What is that metric? What is that thing that they've been talking about over and over and over and over and over? Because they've been training you the whole way through. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? I may have laid that question out wrong. But it's antibodies. Antibodies has become the new metric, like right in front of your face, because they keep talking about they know the vaccine provides robust protection, is going to produce a certain response antibodies, and so now they have us all talking about antibodies. Yeah, antibodies. What's my antibodies? What's my antibody? Like, how do I know I've been infected? How do I know I'm protected? Like, what's my antibody level? And so now people are talking about antibodies. Yeah, antibodies. Oh well, J&J gives this much antibodies. Moderna does this much. Pfizer does this much. Natural immunity, let me see. And so now we're starting to slowly become obsessed with this idea of antibodies. I don't know how many of you actually asked the question of how practical and sustainable it is to have elevated levels of antibodies day in and day out. But once again, 2 years ago, this is something that would have been like a crazy concept to just walk around perpetually with elevated levels of antibodies, because we understand that we have B cells and T cells, which are the memory cells, which you don't need the soldiers walking around in your bloodstream fully armed 24/7 the way they're trying to do with this vaccine right now. But I digress. And so right now, what we're slowly being indoctrinated in is to this idea of perpetual antibody elevation. That's how they're going to keep people jabbed up. Or this is how they're going to keep people obsessed with checking certain levels. Because trust me, once again, I know they keep telling you that everything is free. They keep telling you that the vaccines are free. They tell you that the testing is free. They're not telling you that the mask is free. And once again, 3-card Monty, it's not free. If you're a taxpayer, you paying for it. You paying for it. You paying for it, and you're being forced to take it and comply with it. I'm not going to get into my taxation and theft conversation, but just know that it's not free. And so now we're looking at vaccines the same way, and that's what they want, because they have a vaccine that can alter that and make you think that high antibodies have a correlation with mortality and morbidity. But has anybody really checked what the default level of mortality and morbidity is, as far as just natural immunity? So I know I rambled on for a while. I really recommend, if you want to finish seeing that video, which I recommend, I posted the link. I think I pinned it in the comments. You should go check it out. I want to bring up somebody's comment real quick. I don't usually read the comments during my live streams, because unless I'm at the end, because it will throw me off. I'll get off track, and I'm easy to get off track as far as what I'm talking about. But I saw something come in, and I thought this was pretty interesting, and I want to address it real quick. So let me find that. Boom, here it goes. All right, so Buster LaFleur, apparently he's responding to Willie. I'm not sure what they were talking about as far as the press, but he was saying that this is sad that there are too many people talking about not taking vaccines, but not talking about those who are sick or have died. Vaccines are not new in this country, and neither of you knew anything about all the previous vaccines you've taken. Most of you had no connections to those who have been experimented on. Keep fighting vaccines. Okay, so, and I may be wrong because I don't know the full context, but this idea, so they may be talking about something with the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, and I can look later on, but I'm not gonna do it right now because I don't know if y'all hear the family out there. They're playing dominoes. I'm about to go out there, show them what's up. So I'm gonna get out there. So I'll look back at this later on. But I assume when he's saying most of you had no connection with those who have been experimented on, I think he might be talking about Tuskegee syphilis experiment, maybe, or Henrietta Lacks, or just pick a story out of the medical apartheid. I'm not sure. But if he is, that's a horrible argument, because you should learn from history regardless of your connection. You should, and everybody should do this now, you should see what happens when government gets so much power and the people become extremely compliant. Regardless if that's your cousin or not, regardless if you're related or not, it doesn't matter if you're related or not. Then this guy says that this is sad that too many people are talking about not taking the vaccines, but not talking about those who are sick or have died. That's all they're doing on TV. They're talking about those who are the cases, and they're talking about those who have died. They have a literal death counter. They have a literal death counter on the news. I mean, I don't know if they still have it currently right now, but for sure, CNN, NBC, like a lot of these news channels, were literally counting the deaths moment by moment to let you know that, yo, you should be scared. Now, there's a lot of question about how many people actually died from COVID versus with COVID. And once again, sleight of hand, 3-card Monty. But there are plenty of people. More people are talking about that versus not. And then he says, vaccines are not new in this country, and neither of you knew anything about the previous vaccines you take. Sorry. So you're right. Vaccines are not new. What does it have to do with this thing that they're talking about right now? Because I still struggle to call this mRNA, Moderna and Pfizer, therapeutic or whatever you want. I still struggle to call it a vaccine because it doesn't really make sense to me how this fits in the category of vaccine, unless once again you bend and mold the definition to fit your objective. When we talk about traditional vaccines, once again, we're talking about a vaccine that has a weakened or inactivated form of the virus that will be introduced to the body, which will mount, your body will mount an immune response to that virus, that weakened or inactivated virus. And once exposed, antibodies, B cell, T cell, it'll remember, but also it'll be a sterilizing vaccine, meaning that if you get whatever the disease is that you're being vaccinated against, you're not, well, one, you shouldn't get it, but if you do get it, you're not going to spread it. And so that's what we're talking about with sterilizing vaccines, right? And so those traditional vaccines that this guy thinks he's talking about, they actually had a weakened form of the virus or an inactivated form of the virus. These things that they are pushing right now, they don't. This is a mRNA. We're talking about the spike protein that is going to go into the cell and replicate, but it's not the same thing. But not only that, when was the last time you've gotten your MMR vaccine? When's the last time you got your measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, the polio vaccine? Like, did you have to get them every single year? Did you have to get it twice a year? Did you have to get it 3 times a year? Did you have to get it 4 times a year? So no, the answer to all those things are no, right? The answers are no. So when this guy's, because I've heard this claim a lot of times, and the only thing that comes to my mind is that these people are obviously not being challenged, because to say this 2 years into this whole entire thing and think that you're making sense, you're absolutely not. That doesn't make any sense. To compare it to traditional vaccines doesn't make any sense. Also, to say that, what's the difference is also like saying, like, just go ahead and get it. Like, just go ahead and get it. Like, don't worry about what it's going to do in the future and XYZ. I don't understand how it became so okay for people to cape, for pharmaceutical companies, and cape and aggressively push jabs into people. Like, have so much to do with someone else's health and well-being and body. Like, I don't know when that became so okay. I don't know when it became like how I'm shocked by America. Yeah, I am. I'm shocked by certain segments of America that have become extremely compliant to everything going on. To not question so many things that are just blatantly wrong, blatantly doesn't make sense, blatantly agenda driven, to just go along with it. I'm shocked. And once again, I just wanted to highlight this comment because, to make that conversation or to make that connection or correlation that, these vaccines are the same as the old vaccines. They're not, they're just not. Once again, I struggle to call this thing a vaccine. We're talking about 3 shots in 1 calendar year. Like 3 shots in 1 calendar year. And then having to do it, annually? Impossible. Israel is on their 4th booster. Fourth shot. second booster. This is not a traditional vaccine. Don't make that correlation. It's not. All right, y'all. So once again, go and watch that video because I give you my 10 tips that I recommend: whole foods, exercise, water, sleeping 68 hours a day, fasting. That's my gospel. Going to bed with an empty stomach. Around 6 o'clock is what I recommend. 6 to 8 o'clock. Try not to eat anymore. Making sure your hormone D levels are where they need to be. Vitamin D is not a vitamin, it's a hormone. Deep breathing, community, laughter, and love, and guard your mind. Pretty much fast away from the news, the media, and, a lot of the negative stuff that you're taking on a daily basis. That plays a large part in your psyche and your health. So watch the video. All right. It's on YouTube. I posted the link in there. I got to get out there, chill with the family. But I hope this provided some value for you all. And just know that you're going to have to do this on your own. Okay. And when I say on your own, I'm talking about without them, the system. You got to do it with your family. You got to do it with your community. You got to do it with your people. All right. So that's who you have to do it with. But as far as like the whole system and all of them having your best interest in mind, that's not going to work. All right. So hold on. All right. I see another comment. I'm trying to get off, but certain comments, it's hard for me to walk away from. All right. What's that? And Steve, I don't really know what you mean, but if you could clarify for me. I guess most of you aren't prior military. What does that mean? What does that mean? What point are you trying to get across with that one? If you could, real quick. I'm trying to get off, but I'm curious about what he means by that. Because I don't want to go off on a tangent about this comment, and he doesn't mean what I think he means. So I want to make sure I understand the brother and clear. Okay, he meant what I thought he meant. In the military, we get shots all the time. All right, so what does that mean, Mr. McMillan? What does that mean? What does that mean? In the shots we get in the military, when you're in the military, you're actually property of the military. Like, you belong to the military. Like, you just can't go around and get tattoos on your arm when you're in the military. There's certain things you just can't do to your own body when you're in the military because you're property of the military. When you're a civilian, you're not in the military. So when you're in the military, yeah, blind compliance is necessary because you're in the military. We need you to do what we said do, because if we got to go to war, I can't have y'all popping off, asking questions, challenging me, the general, in a time of war. So what does that mean to civilians who are not in the military? All right, he says, mostly because we go to places where we need to be protected, right? You're correct. We can get tattoos. You're correct. We can get tattoos. You can just get tattoos on your arm like that. You can just get tattoos on your arm. But I'm trying to understand, are you saying that because you were in the military and you just got shots that you really didn't know anything about, that we all should continue to follow that blind compliance? Because once again, I agree, in the military, blind compliance is necessary. Not blind compliance, but that's one of those areas where you got to just suit up and do what you are told to do. All right. If you work for the government, you are the same as the military. Right. But what if you're a civilian, Stephen? Like, how does this, you putting that comment means what to everybody else watching this live stream? Are you suggesting that because in the military, you all just get vaccines, whatever kind of vaccines, multiple times, you just stand in line and get jabbed in the arm multiple times? Are you saying that is the reason why everybody else should just go ahead and get it? That's what I'm trying to understand. Like, is that what you are saying? Because if that is what you're saying, that's what I have a problem with. Because most people watching this are not in the military. And once again, when you're in the military, they own you. Like, you're government property. So that's not something that applies. I don't recommend that any of you keep that mindset. I recommend that my basic foundation is I own me. All right. I own me. I say what goes. You're not going to bully. You're not going to force me. I'm not going to do that. I own me. You're not going to put me in a position where I guess you just have to do whatever you have to do to me because you own me. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. Once again, I understand if you're in the military, different. But most people watching this are not in the military. All civilians, what? All civilians that work for the government are the same. Yeah, okay. All right, Stephen. Doesn't seem like you really have anywhere to go with this. All right, so that's it, y'all. I'm going to get off. Yeah, so the blind compliance, let it go. Well, I recommend you think about letting it go. All right. Once again, look at the track record. Has the healthcare system been knocking out the park as pertains to preventable conditions, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, obesity? Have they been knocking out the park? Understand that they want you weak and sick for a reason, because if you're sick, then you depend on them. You're going to need their medications. You're going to need their attention, or you're going to feel like you need it. And if you're weak, then you're less likely to fight back. And so I need everyone. Well, once again, I'm not into telling people what to do. But I would like for a lot of you all to think about taking all of these 10 things that I have right here into consideration and actually doing it. Start exercising, push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, running, stairs. You got to get moving. Water, putting down the juice and the soda. I'm serious, like laughter and having a good time with your people or your household. Like you got to have a way to get that stress off. You got to have a way to blow that steam off. You don't want to just hold on and walk onto that. Also, perpetually just going down your timeline of just stress, despair. It messes you up psychologically. Don't do that. Vitamin D, hormone D, get that by sunlight. Buy vitamin D supplementations. I recommend D3 with K2. Fasting is my gospel. I recommend sleep. I'm a hypocrite when it comes to sleep because I don't sleep 6 to 8 hours at all. But I do recommend you all sleeping that much if it's appropriate for you. Eating whole foods. So we're talking about foods that are rich in fiber, vitamins, and minerals, phytonutrients. Make sure you get those. Decrease the amount of processed foods that you're eating. Those processed foods serve you no benefit whatsoever. None. It serves them. That is like, that processed foods keeps them going. It keeps their money going because they know if you're eating processed foods, it's only so long before you have to see us. They know that. Sleeping 68 hours, water, exercise, whole foods, empty stomach before bed. So I recommend having your last meal between the hours of 6 and 8, preferably 6, no later than 8. And deep breathing and guard your mind. All right. So like I said, if you want to watch that full video, it's on YouTube. It's also on Facebook. I just don't know where it's at. I have to find it. All right. So I appreciate you all. Share the video, like the video, and check out the other videos that we have. All right. We have a lot of videos on Facebook. Make sure you check that all out. All right. I love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Remember, this is our community, our responsibility. We have what it takes, but we just got to put in the work. All right. Love y'all. Peace.